Hello, everybody, and welcome to Light of the World. We are so excited for this new season because I have been blessed with two additional panelists that will be joining Light of the World. One is Dr. Carol Drake Wheatley, and the other is John Nathan, Reverend John Nathan. And I'm very excited to have them join us. And we feel that there is a new beginning and a new place for us to go, a new height, a new chapter for Light of the World, and we feel very excited. So today is our first Light of the World that we are going to be together. And so thank you both to you, Dr. Carol, and to you, John. And we are joined by a wonderful and great friend of mine, Lauren Picariello. And Lauren and I attended the same church. Lauren was part of the youth group where I served and also has a Sunday school teacher. And so I am happy to have her on the show today. And we are going to be talking about conquering eating disorders. And she is our special guest today. Before we get started, everybody have a good week. Everybody was good. Everything is well. Good. Okay. Um, Tomorrow we get to celebrate Justin's birthday. So I'm very happy because it's going to be his birthday. And I love it when my kids have a birthday. So it's an exciting week for us at the Citro family. Um, I am going to start by giving us some statistics because eating disorders is a major issue, not just in the United States, but around the world. And we have here, we are going to post them here so that you can read them for yourselves and also where we got these quotes from. So we can trust that these quotes are right. And can I say it's a epidemic, a pandemic, whatever you want to call it. This is serious. And today we're going to talk about the serious issues. And we are going to give some answers, some good answers, because there's too many people out there who are battling. And we want to let you know that there is hope, that there is deliverance, and that there is life, and that God can and will restore and heal everybody. And yes, that means also being able counseling or whatever else it is that a person needs in order to get back to the right road. So here we go. I'm going to read some of these quotes for us. So eating disorders affect at least 9% of the population worldwide. 9% of the US population, or 28.8 million Americans, will have an eating disorder in their lifetime. That is a lot of people, 28.8 million. 10,000, this is very sad to me right here. 10,200 deaths each year are direct results of eating disorders. That's one death every 52 minutes. I want us to understand that this program is 1 hour. These statistic means that within this 1 hour, one person is going to die because of this disorder. One person alone is already an issue. Never mind 10,500 of them. And we have the opportunity today to come in a safe environment, in a safe place, to hear from somebody that actually overcame. And if you know somebody that is going and through this issue, then please understand that there is hope to you and your loved one. Or if you yourself are battling, there is hope for you. And we are going to discuss it in a manner that is going to be helpful to you. Now, 42% of uh, first through third grade girls want to be thinner. I can't imagine that somebody who's 6 years old in the first grade is thinking about their body image, wanting to be thinner. And 81% of 10-year-old children are afraid of being fat. Children means male and female. So 35 to 57 of adolescent girls engage in crash dieting, fast self-induced vomiting, diet pills, or laxatives. I don't even know. It's just staggering. The best known environmental contributor to the development of eating disorders is the social cultural idealization of thinness. That's a real problem that we're going to be talking about today, because unfortunately, people are looking at magazines and movies and they're comparing themselves to someone, and that should never be the case. Weight stigma poses a significant threat to psychological and physical health. It has been documented has a significant risk factor for depression, low self-esteem, and body dissatisfaction. By age 6, girls especially start to express concerns about their own weight shape. 40 to 60% of elementary school girls are concerned about their weight or becoming too fat. This endures through life. So it doesn't just stop there. This is why we're talking about it here today. Again, to shed light, to bring hope and understanding to what is really happening out there. And I think I'm going to stop here with this one, and we will finish the rest after I start asking some questions. But of American elementary school girls who read magazines, 69% say that the pictures influence their concept of the ideal body shape, and 47% say the pictures make them want to lose weight. I'm going to stop right here because I'm going to start asking questions, and then we are going to break them down, Eliana, specifically to anorexia and bulimia. I'm going to first start with our panelists here because I would like some feedback from Dr. Carol and from Pastor John here. Anorexia and bulimia are known as eating disorders. What do you think about that? Are they really only eating disorders? Dr. Carol, I'm going to start with you. Keep it short, please. But
1 minute,
no.
1 minute or less. Yes, I'm aware of all the press that eating disorders get, but from a purely biblical standpoint, what we have to do is we have to look beyond the physical aspect of it, and we have to look into the spiritual realm.
That's right.
And one of the things that we do know is that the Bible doesn't specifically break things down into alcoholism or bulimia or anorexia or any of the other addictive behaviors that we see. But what it really is talking about is behavioral issues and why people behave the way they do. But as is true with everything in the Bible, when it tells you what the problem is, it also gives you the solution.
That's right.
So we're going to concentrate on some of the solutions and what the Bible clearly has to say about this.
Well said. John? Uh-oh, wait, we can't hear you. Okay, try again. No. Can you hear? No, we cannot hear you. Oops, technical difficulties. All right. While we wait for him to come on, I'm going to go to the next question and then we'll have him answer it as well. Dr. Carol, you said it correctly when you said behavioral issues. That's right. You're right. So having said that, as Christians, what hope is there for those with such behavioral issues? Because you kind of covered it a little bit, but I'd like for you to expand because we have an audience. We want them to know, okay, how do we do this?
Sure. One of the things that we know about the Bible is the fact that it is a book of hope.
That's right.
And there are things that go on in this world that come against us, like bulimia. And when we understand the source of where it comes from, then God will enlighten us as well to let us know how to walk in the victory that Christ already bought for us over this issue. And as a behavioral issue, we know that everything that the Bible tells us is that we are overcomers.
That's right.
Christ fought the battle, so we don't have to. And the problem is, how do I get to the point where I no longer fight, but I allow Christ to fight and win, and I walk in that victory? So we're going to talk about that too.
Very well said. John, can you hear us now? Can I?
I've been hearing you guys perfectly fine. You
Yay.
guys could okay, perfect. You guys could hear me now?
Yes. So
Okay, great.
briefly, I'm going to go back to those questions that Dr.
Yeah,
Carol answered because we want to know your opinion because you're going to represent the, shall we say, the young boys, the male population here. So it's
yeah,
important because this is not a problem just for women and young girls. This is a problem for young males, younger
sure.
kids as well. So we're covering everybody today. So I asked Dr. Carol, anorexia and bulimia are known as eating disorders. What do you think about that? Are they really only eating disorders? And I think you heard what Dr. Carol had
Yeah,
to say.
absolutely. Again, once again, thank you again for the patient. It is definitely a tragedy, I would say. I mean, especially among young people. I do believe there is an underlying tone behind this. This is not just a simple symptom that we can just look at from a surface level. There
Mhm.
is definitely an underlying surface. And based on what I've read, it is a distorted image that people perceive about themselves now. If you are a person who has been raised in an environment where being thin is being celebrated, as a child, if you've been told you're a fat chick kid, those images or those words can create into an image. And growing up as into an adult, a child will want to prevent becoming that chubby looking kid. But once again, there is a much deeper level that we need to touch on. And as we continue on this discussion, we will probably touch on that. But definitely, there is an underlying tone. It is not just simply people who want to just not want to eat. There is definitely something beyond that, and definitely we have an answer from that for that as well from the scriptures.
That's very right in what you just said, because I know some people who this has happened to simply because kids said that they were fat in school.
Yeah.
And so it is accurate what you just said. All right, moving on to number 3 before we get into your story, Lauren, because I just want to set it up outside so that people understand what this is happening because we shot at them a lot of you know statistics right now, and so we want to clarify what they just saw because when you see those statistics, it's like, oh my god. So we know that the Bible offers hope, but why do these things keep happening? This is the number one question that I get asked, and I'm going to start with you there, Dr. Carol. um Everybody wants to blame God or they want to blame somebody else. And, I want you to answer that. Why do you think this keeps on happening? Is it God's fault?
Yeah, and that's a really great question. And it's a question I get all the time. And a lot of people don't want to hear the truth behind that. But, when we pray to God to answer our prayers, He does. The Bible's very clear about the fact that when we pray, He answers. What happens is because of our thought processes, because of, like Pastor John said, that we have these patterns that we've developed over the years in our lives, we allow those patterns to become barriers to the answers that God has for us. And those answers are clear and they're written down in the Bible for us.
That's right. That's exactly right. We are overcomers. It's like what you just said before. And, whatever happens, it's not like God is doing it. It is we live in a world where things happen and they happen for a reason. And John, I'm going to go to you now to answer that question as well, because you pretty much said it previously in what you just said. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do live in a fallen world. Even though our spirit gets born again and God redeems the spirit, our soul still needs healing.
That's right.
It needs renewal. Our mind needs to be renewed according to God's pattern of His word. our soul needs to be healed. So there's all of those plays a factor in, and a lot of times what we think, because we come into the kingdom of God, we are completely set free. No, there's a lot of issues that we hold on to, and unless we bring them into the surface and allow and even ask or even identify that these are issues that we struggle with, we will never find the answer. So there is always an answer. God always has answers. God always wants to heal, as Dr. Carol said. It's just that, are we recognizing these symptoms that is actually at work in our lives?
That's right. I agree with what you said. Um, Lauren, I will be asking this question of you later, but now I'm going to continue with my final question to the panelists. Um, how can you help loved ones who are dealing with these types of behaviors, issues? Because there are parents who are listening, there are loved ones who are listening, and they want to help. Now, I know one person that this has happened to in my life, and I would say, I'll cook whatever it is that you want. Um, I'll I'll cook for you. You know, I'll make it your way. What do you want to eat? And then the person would take a bite or two, but not eat it. And it was very painful to see before my eyes, because I mean, I cried. I would leave the room and I would cry. So I understand what you went through, and I understand what other people go through. And Dr. Carol, can we really make anybody do anything? That Can we really bribe them? I'll make the cake with no sugar. I'll not make anything with carbs. I will do this, I will do that. Can we make anybody eat? Because later on, Lauren is going to answer this question as a person that went through it. Can you help us understand, for those who are listening, Dr. Carol?
It's like anything else. I can't make another individual do anything that they don't want to do. My job in dealing with people is to get them to the point to understand who is God in the midst of your situation.
That's right.
And do you want to change for Him and allow Him to fill you with His grace to be able to change? Because alone we can't. We all, when we get into deception, we're trapped in that darkness. The only key is the light of the Lord Jesus Christ. And so what we have to do is understand, first and foremost, we have to take a very realistic, truthful look at the one that we love who's dealing with the issue. And then we have to take a very loving and truthful approach that's in accordance with scripture that we know impacts lives.
That's
But,
right.
but to deny it is not good. To enable it is not good. The only thing that we have, and it's the single most powerful thing we have, and that's prayer and love.
That's right. The most powerful thing that we have is prayer and life and love. Um, John, what?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first premise that we need to start is that we bear the image of God. As Psalms 139 says, that we've been fearfully and wonderfully be made by God. That there's no shame. There's no shame how we look, the color of our tone, our pigmentation, the race, where we were born, any status. It doesn't matter. We are all a new creation in God, and we belong to God. For me personally, I would say identifying the underlying tone. It's like our job should be like someone holding on to a mirror, allowing them to see. It's not to judge, but just allowing them to see their wounds, and then allowing them, first of all, to identify that there is a underlying issue that they're struggling with, and then really point them to the scriptures, point them to the Lord, and let the Lord does do the work. It's not our job. I cannot heal anybody. We can bring any transformation. It is Jesus that does the work. So for me, it's not behavior modification. We're not to change their behaviors. It's really pointing them to the Lord, who would do the heart transformation. And when the heart is transformed, everything lines up accordingly.
I love what you just said. When the heart is transformed, everything lines up accordingly. This is why I always say to people to take on the mind of Christ, because when you take on the mind of Christ, you are thinking what God thinks, and we are going to think that we are wonderfully and creatively created by a loving God, perfectly made. Doesn't matter what color my eyes are, or anything like that. What matters is that we accept ourselves, because all of us have been created beautifully. That's the point here. We all are beautiful people because God has put his handprint on our lives. All right,
Amen.
Lauren. Thank you, guys. Lauren, I'm going to introduce you just a little bit again, more so. Lauren, I know you very, very well. Like I said in the beginning of the program, you were in my youth group. I was your leader, and I was also your Sunday school teacher, not just to you, but to your sister and your younger brother. I'm sorry, your younger sister. And
Mhm.
your brother is the pastor of the church that I attended, and the church where my children got dedicated at, and the church that I served. So I know his life, great man of God, one of the largest churches here in the area, well respected in the community. Your parents, amazing people. Your mother is one of the 10 top women in my life that I respect and admire, because she is a woman of God, literally. She's a prayer warrior. She loves people, accepts people the way they are, always has a helping hand, never said no to doing anything in the church. And you are, as a family, very tight fit family. And your dad,
Mhm.
every time I would come in through the church, he would pick up my kids. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's a great family. If you ever wanted to be a part of a family, the Picariello family was the family that everybody would want to be a part of their lives. And we all joked about that. So very, very hands-on, kind people. Most importantly, encouraging people. Your parents were known to encourage other people and
Mhm.
help other people, non-judgmental at all. And if that is not convincing, when I had my children and then I took them to church, they needed to go into the nursery. Well, I never left them in the nursery. I was always there with them. And Beverly, her mom here, Lauren's mom, would say, Teresa, give me the child. I promise I will not let nobody touch. I will be the only one holding this baby. And your mother is the only person outside of PM, the pastor's wife, that I ever allowed to stay with anybody, because that's how much I trust this family. And I've known you for a very long time. So I want to welcome you here today again. And I am mostly want to say to you how much I respect and I admire you for your bravery to come out. You just told us before the program that nobody knows you're on this program, that this
No.
is the first time that you actually spoke about it. And I said to you, I believe that that happened is because of the relationship that we have, that you and I have, and that you feel safe to discuss this
Mhm.
in a place where we mean the best for you, and we want to continue to encourage you, but your story has value and your story has merit. And I'm going to read to everybody here what brought this show about, because I received a message from Lauren, and I feel like it's important for people to understand how God has literally put this together. So I received this message from Lauren on April 25th, and she writes, Teresa, I hope you're doing well. I love that you reposted that Dove commercial. I'm sending this as an educational message, as it's probably something you've never thought about. As someone who has struggled with an eating disorder for 20 years, many of your posts are eating disordered, and you put that in quotes, running to burn off something you ate, saying you shouldn't eat sweets, sugar, or talking about weight gain, all very triggering for someone with an eating disorder, or who are very insecure about their body image. There's that word again. You certainly have the right to post as you wish, and you are generally hilarious, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention, as again, it is not something you've ever dealt with. you wouldn't know. And I know you have many followers of all ages. I love you, and a kiss, and a kiss heart. That's what you sent me. When she sent me this message, I literally froze because I was not thinking that what I considered funny after my mother makes pasta, and I'm like, oh my God, is a million calories. Now I gotta go run. And everybody knows this about me. I have this hate for carbs. And I was not aware that something I said could trigger somebody who was already dealing. So number one, you never would have sent that to me if you did not have the faith and the trust that I wouldn't retaliate in a negative way. You said it very nicely, but it's that trust because we have a history. Number one. Number two, you know that I love God, and you know that God would most likely deal with me to a point where now we're here. And that's
Right.
exactly what took place because you said something that was very powerful, and now we need to address it because it's the right thing to do. And so I am glad that you stood up and you did it in a manner that was very kind, very nice, and we're here. This is why we're here, and I want to thank you for that. And you know that I love you dearly, and I am proud of you. And I'm proud of you for all your achievements. You've always been an incredible, powerful young woman. And I always saw you as a young woman that others followed and imitated because you are that person, Lauren. I'm not just
Mhm.
saying it to say it. It's the truth. And I'm sure that a lot of people from Mount Hope would agree with that because they know you. So I'm going to add, so welcome again. Thank you for
Thank
choosing
you.
us. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for loving me. And now we are going to discuss your story. So my first question um, to you is what are some different types of eating disorders and some statistics? And I have posted some already, but I want to hear from you what those, because you've seen them come across here. Were any of them current, or has anything changed? Because you're also a social worker, not in the
Yeah.
field, but you are a social worker. So you
Yeah.
can talk from that aspect. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different eating disorders. I think the biggest ones, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Teresa. This is amazing. And I'm glad if this is the first time I'm going to talk about it, I'm here with you and I feel so comfortable. So thank you for that. And it's just a little interesting on the timing. Of course, God has his timing and his plans, but this is actually, May of 2023 is literally the 20-year anniversary of my
Wow.
eating disorder. Like it started after I graduated college, May 2003. So it's interesting. And I'll go through my whole story, but it all really took place started and ended in the month of May, my treatment. So the timing always works together. But there's different types of eating disorders. I think the two biggest ones people know are anorexia, which is really characterized by being consumed with weight loss, restricting your calorie intake. And it's really seen as not consuming anything, but it's mixed a lot with bulimia, which is also another eating disorder, which is bulimia is where you really eat a lot. Binge eating, it's frequent binge eating, and then followed by purging, which can either be done, in throwing up sense, taking laxatives, over exercising to work off like what you binged. But a lot of those kind of go hand in hand. A lot of people who have anorexia also have facets of bulimia and vice versa. Binge eating disorder is another one where, again, uncontrollable, frequently consuming large amounts of food, and just not feeling like you have control over it. A newer one that's not really, you know, officially a disorder, like in the DSM-5 and the diagnostic manual, but orthorexia, which is really an obsession with healthy eating,
Mm.
saying, well, I'm not going to eat fats. They're not good for you. I'm not going to eat meat. I'm going to be vegan. I'm going to be not going to have carbs. And I'm not saying that you cannot do that, but when it comes to the point where it consumes your life and you're not doing it for health reasons, you're doing it because it's a control issue, and you're using it as, a control over how your body looks, that's when it becomes a disorder. So I know a lot of it is, people will think, well, that's really just healthy eating. And it can be if your mind is in the right place or you're doing it for the right reasons. But for some people, they use that as an excuse to justify their eating disorder. I'm being healthy. I'm following the vegan diet, the keto diet. There's always a fad diet that people will follow, but not in a healthy way, in a way to be healthy. So those are the biggest eating disorders, I think, that are most well known. There's also like pica, which is eating, non food substance things. There's rumination. There's avoidance, restrictive food intake. So there's a lot of different kinds out there. But I think generally, and most of the statistics out there do focus on anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder. I think that's just where most of the research has been.
Thank you, Lauren. Dr. Carol, I'm going to go to you first, and I am going to ask you. Lauren just said so much here, and there are things that I think that we should discuss a little bit. So I'm going to start with you first. What caught your eye, your ear, I should say?
What really caught my eye and my ear is when you said that, when you made the statement about control. When you made the next statement was about the people with the health food obsession. And one of the things that we do know, most addictive behaviors, I don't like the word disorder, but happens because they're fear-based. Because when there's a belief that you have to do something to be in control, that may be the only thing in your life that you had control over at that time. It has a lot to do with things like anger. Angry people are people who are desperate to be in control of their lives. Bulimia probably fits into that category as well. I don't have a medical background. I have a scriptural background, but what I see is these things, these symptoms, these issues that people deal with all point to one thing. And that's the fear that resides within them. And the Bible says that Jesus didn't come to give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And so when we can teach people about that, we can teach them to overcome.
I love what you said, Dr. Carol, because I do have a medical background, as a lot of you know. And one of the things that I had to learn when I was pre-med was the psychological basis. And one of the things that we had to learn was about eating disorders. And I agree with you. I like to call them issues because somehow that just makes it feel like there's a disorder with the person. But these are issues. People deal with different issues in different ways, and we always want to give it this disorder. But yes, you're 1000% right, Dr. Carol, because it is associated with control, something that the person feels that I have control over this, and it becomes destructive. So this is why there is what is happening. Instead of addressing certain things, which you, John, and I'm going to go back to you now, you said it in your last statement. So can you just elaborate either on that or on what caught your ear about what she had to say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we live in a culture that tells us, constantly bombards us, take control of your life, take control of your life. And the minute we do that, what happens is that we end up coping with our issues. It's a coping mechanism. And what end up happening in those moments is that we end up getting distressed. This is where the fear of others' opinion begins to matter. Begin to listen to the voice that is inside telling us you're not good enough. All of these things begins to make you want to take control of your life. And that's where you tend to go that extreme. And the scripture is very clear: come to me and you will find rest. And I think the greatest remedy that we can lead people into is into the rest of our Lord Jesus Christ. And rest from what? Rest from striving, rest from performance, rest from trying to be someone, or the peer pressure. So those things are definitely an issue, and I think our young generation are being caught in this treadmill. And as the scriptures, we have the answer, and we can definitely be a channel of transformation into these people's life.
Thank you. Lauren, I am going to ask you another question now. What is your story? There is a story behind this. And we have three more questions for you, I believe, right? No, two more questions. Three more questions after this. And we're already at a little bit over the halfway point. So your story, because your story is very important. Something happened, or sometimes happens to other people. But what is your story?
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, I grew up in a Christian home. We very loving family, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, it's tough to pinpoint the reason for an eating disorder. There's a lot of different things. I mean, a lot of people experience abuse. A lot of people, it's trauma, substance abuse, things like that. But I grew up in a very traditional Christian, happy home. My family was very involved. We, vacationed together, and so no trauma, not a lot of drinking in the house, no yelling. I mean, it was fairly uneventful, really, and very loving family. So I went to community college for the first 2 years. So I was still living at home, and I didn't move out of home until my junior year of college, when I went out to Western Mass for my undergrad. And my first semester there was, it was fine. I did great. My grades were great. And my second semester was when it really was, kind of that Christian girl goes off to school. I started hanging around people who weren't very good influences. I was drinking a lot, going to fraternity parties and sorority parties, and just, really becoming part of the college crowd and community. And I still did really great in school. I went to all my classes. So, to me, it was best of both worlds. I was having fun. I was doing well. But at the end of that year, there was a lot of guilt. I knew it wasn't how I was supposed to be behaving, things I was supposed to be engaging in. I didn't feel good about myself at the end of that first my junior year. So I went back home for the summer, and again, I worked uneventful. I didn't really go out a lot. I went back to school in that fall for my senior year, and I had committed to having a better senior year and being more responsible and making better decisions about who I spent time with and what I did. And I committed to that. I did well, continued to do well in school. Did I still drink? Was I still hanging around with people? Yes. Was it like it was that previous semester? Not even close. So I finished about my senior year, and no issues, no eating disorder behaviors, thoughts. I was never consumed by my looks, by my weight, nothing. So to me, it was a very surprising thing that it happened. I moved back home in May of 2003. I got my first full-time job. I started 2 days after graduation. But I think there was just a kind of a transition in life, right? I lived away for 2 years. I had a lot of freedom. I knew I didn't make good choices, but they were my choices to make. And moving back home with my parents and living, being respectful of them and respecting their rules and respecting, which weren't strict or anything. It was normal bit, rules of you living with your parents, be respectful. And I just think I held on to a lot of that guilt, though, from my behavior or things I engaged in college. And I think that's where a lot of it started manifesting. As a lot of people with eating disorders have comorbidities, depression,
That's
anxiety,
right.
obsessive compulsive disorder, a need for perfectionism. And I think that is where I kind of took out my anxieties, as I felt guilty for what I did. So I kind of took it out on myself, on my body. And I primarily struggled with bulimia, but again, goes hand in hand with anorexia. And so that was 2003. And I just, I didn't think I really had a problem, like most people don't initially. And it just kind of went on for years as just like I accepted it as part of my life. This is just what I do now. This is how I operate. I eat, I purge, I am consumed by what I'm eating. I'm writing down, keeping track of what I eat. I'm writing
Wow.
down, how much I exercise. And
Wow.
it just became part of my life. I didn't think it was an issue. No one ever said anything. No one noticed. No one, I didn't have any real medical, my dentist didn't notice, which, you can have a lot of
Shocking.
dental issues for females. It can affect your menstruation, and that never happened. So I just continued to think, well, this is fine. I'm pulling this off. It's, meeting my need of how I'm dealing with my anxieties and guilt and shame, and no one else is noticing. So I go on for years. I mean, that was 2003. And then fast forward to 2010, my grandfather, I was very close with my grandparents, visited with them multiple times a week, had lunch during work. I'd go over there, very close with them. And my grandfather passed away in December of 2010. I had gotten married in that time, and there was some issues in our marriage that were, again, I'm ashamed of, or things that I felt like, oh well, I'm a failure. These things are happening in my marriage, and I can't talk to anybody about them, and I know better. I should be doing better. So I progressed with my eating disorder. That was how I was going to deal with these emotions. I wasn't going to talk to anybody about it. I wasn't going to let anyone know. So I really just got deeper into my eating disorder. And then I got to the point where I thought maybe I might have an issue. Maybe I should talk to somebody. Maybe I should look into getting some help. But I was convinced that I was going to talk to somebody, and they were going to tell me, oh, you're fine. You're not as bad as anybody else. You don't look like, the stereotypical pictures you see, the people in the movies when they, eating disorder movies, anorexia. You don't look like that. You're fine. Maybe get a therapist, but you'll be okay.
But
So
that's not what happened.
that's not what happened. So on May 3rd, because I wanted to look at the dates. So May 3rd, 2011, I went in and had an intake, and convinced I was going to walk out of there and with confirmation that I did not have an eating disorder, that I was normal, that everyone goes through this. And the woman said, well, you should probably start like our intensive outpatient program, which is an evening program, 3 nights a week, 3 hours a night. You would bring your supper. It's a supervised meal, group therapy, individual therapy. And I thought, well, okay, I mean, I guess I'll try it, but I'm sure I'm going to go to that, and they're going to say, oh, no, you don't belong here. And that was May 3rd. My grandmother ended up passing away May 16th. And that's really, again, very close with her. And that's when I broke. That's just was my breaking point. 2 very important people in my life passed away. I was having issues with my marriage. 30 years old, 29 years old. I don't even know how to eat properly. Like, I just broke down. So I remember I actually, as soon as I found out my grandmother passed, I drove to my brother's work, to the church. I stormed into his office, and I just bawled. I broke down. Everything. I just told him everything. And at that point, I had gone to a little bit, 1 or 2 nights maybe of this treatment program. But it just was such a relief to have that secret in the open. And then he helped me, talk to my parents about it and tell them about it. And I just think the timing was all perfect, because had I not told anybody, like, and I didn't tell anyone I was going for the intake, I didn't tell anyone I was going to treatment. And had I continued to keep that a secret as I went through it, I probably wouldn't have progressed to different levels of treatment that I really needed.
And
So
and they were sorry to cut you off, but they nobody ever noticed. Now see, I had left the church and moved just a couple of months before all of this
yeah.
place. So nobody saw your body image. I mean, like you because you ended up in the hospital. So I'd like for you to talk about.
Yes. So people noticed, but no one said anything.
But I would have said something if I had been there.
Yeah, of course. After the fact, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, you were losing weight," or "Oh yeah," or something. But I am very personable. I'm outgoing. I put on a good facade, and so as far as that, like the depression, the anxiety, like that was very hidden. So it would have been tough. It would have taken a lot to figure that out. So as I went to that night program, and then they said, well, maybe you should start the partial hospitalization program, which is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., 5 days a week. And you bring your lunch, you have snacks, they supervise your meals, they set you up with a dietitian, and you have group therapy, individual therapy. And it's more, just really heavier therapy. And I learned a lot. I really did. And I learned, it's more than, it's not just about food. It's never just about food. It's always more. So I learned a lot. And, from that, it wasn't enough. I progressed to a residential program, which is you live there, you have 24-hour supervision, you get weighed daily, they take your vital signs, you see a medical doctor, a nutritionist. I was formally diagnosed with depression and anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder. I started taking medications, which were helpful. 20 years later, I do still take medications, much lower dose, less medications, but I do. And that's something that's, part of my treatment, but it's also part of, it's all part of God's plan. I mean, if I had diabetes, I'm not going to not take insulin. And for me, I think that's an important thing for people to know about mental health is, it's an illness, and there's medications, there's medical, things out there that can help you. And I don't think we can deny ourselves them.
Right.
It's part of God's plan, it's part of him healing us. We do a lot of internal work, but yes, there is chemical imbalances in the brain that medications can help. And so I did that for years. So May 3rd, 2011 to May 8th, 2012, that was the last time I went to treatment. And I went from the night program, day program, residential, back to the day program, back to residential, day program, night program. So it wasn't a easy transition. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't, you do this, you do that, you're going to get better and you're good. No, it was, you went 2 steps forward, 8 steps back. And I continued with outpatient therapy after I finished that. And now it's been 20 years since I first had this, but 2016 was I stopped going to individual therapy, and I'm in a much better place now. Do I consider myself 100% recovered? I don't. Do I think that's out there? Yes. Do I think I have it? I am going to be one day? Yes. But I'm in such a better place. Like the fact that I'm sitting here talking about this today and knowing that, family members or people that knew me growing up will be shocked to hear this. Like that's a big step for me, and that's all part of recovery. And I do have a lot of disordered thoughts about food, about my body still, but I know how to work through those. I know I can, through God, through prayer, but through therapy, through other, aspects. I can work myself through it without acting on those disordered thoughts or disordered, thinking about food or body image. Like I can move past the behaviors.
I am so proud of you, Lauren, because I know you and I know your face and I know your smile. And I know that you have worked through this. And you're right, it takes time to continue.
Hmm.
So I know you're going to beat this. I know that you're not, I know everything is going to go well with you
Hmm.
because you have the right attitude, you understand, and you want to continue to learn. And
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, we're going to go real quickly because,
Yep.
believe it or not, we are 5 minutes and we'll be done with this program. This is how interesting all of this has been. So, how this is important because now you're a mom, you have a little
Hmm.
girl,
I
Jasmine.
do.
Oh, maybe I should not have said her name. It's
Oh,
okay.
that's fine.
Okay. Um, how has this experience influenced you? How did God help you through it? Because talking to you, we're seeing a young woman that's a peace. You are confident. You're
Hmm.
discussing it. What? How has it influenced you now? And how did God see you through?
Yeah, well, I mean, I couldn't have been to this spot without God, right? Without my family praying for me, without me spending time in prayer, without, I mean, there's no way I would be at this place. But as far as like how it's molded me or kind of made me the person I am today, I think the biggest way it has is as a mother, and as somebody who wants to educate
That's right.
others about it. I mean, society is the fitness industry, the weight loss industry is $192 billion business.
Wow.
Like they, gyms, supplements, all the things. Like it is a huge business, and it focuses on what? Your appearance, your weight, beach body, the thigh gap. Like how much weight can one lose? And that is just what we need to end. I mean, it has to be a different thought. It has to be a different approach. Otherwise, this is just going to continue. But I feel like for me, the biggest way it's changed me is how I mother my daughter. I watch what I say around her when I exercise, and she wants to do something. And why do you have to exercise? It's never about appearance. It's about, well, you know what? It's for my insides, my heart, my lungs,
That's
my
right.
brain.
That's right.
It makes me a better mother to you. And I think we need to focus more on that and less on, well, it's going to change the way I look, or, and I'm very careful about what I say, because kids are they hear everything. They don't miss a
Right.
beat. So the way I talk about food, oh, that's fattening. Oh, I'm watching what I'm eating. Oh, I had a big lunch today. I mean, it's things you don't think about until you've gone through it. And then
You
until you want to not pass that on to your daughter, you don't think about it.
you
And that's why Teresa, that message I sent you was pure educational, because you don't think about it. And vulnerable, our young children, female and males, they hear this. They see us weighing ourselves. They see us saying, "Oh, this shirt makes me look fat. Oh, I feel gross." Like they hear all of this, and that's really the biggest thing that it has molded me as a mother and as an influence with my nieces, with other kids in the church, and the other kids in my life. Just, and not just kids. I mean, I'm 42 years old and I'm still dealing with this. Like it is not. No age is safe. No ethnicity is safe. No gender. Like it affects everybody.
That's right. And I love that you said things, which was going to be my final. Actually, there's one more question. So, how can we change things as a society? I think you said that it's how we speak, it's how
Hmm.
we relate. It's about food. It's about changing our entire speech and understanding that we don't exercise because we need to be a size zero. We
Hmm.
exercise because we have a heart, and the heart needs the exercise because it's better for you. That's
Yeah.
why we do what we do. And what to eat and taking supplements. Go ahead and eat a piece of cake every day if you so choose, but also understand that you should put vegetables and
Right.
fruits because they're the right sugar, the right
Hmm.
nutrition that's going to keep your body going. And I can
Right.
say that because, like I said, I was pre-med. I had
Yeah.
to study nutrition, so
Right.
I understand. um Lauren, I'm going to skip ahead to one final question, because I think that's the most important one now. And what do you want others who are struggling to know? Because I think this is the most important thing, because they see you looking good. You don't look sick at all. You have a
Mm-hmm.
smile on your face. You're beautiful. And I'm not just saying that to say it.
I know.
You know,
Thank
I've always said that you were one beautiful young woman, and you still are, and you will continue to be, because beauty is not just the outside, it's who you are from the inside that radiates on your face. So you can put all the makeup you want, you can
you.
put the
Mm-hmm.
most beautiful clothes that you want, you can be a size zero, because if your inside is ugly, your outside is going to be ugly. So it's what's inside that radiates outside that's the
Mm-hmm.
true beauty. That's the truth. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, doesn't mean that you go ahead and you eat yourself to oblivious to the point where you're gonna end up with diabetes,
Right.
heart issues. We always have to remember that there has to be a balance to everything.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. There's no, like, you don't even changing your language. Bad food, good food. No such thing. You
yes,
know, it's food. It fuels our body. Some of it fuels our body better than others. Some of it, but it's all about balance. It's about moderation. It's about just eating what you want when you want, not because how it's going to affect your appearance.
that's right.
But as far as, people, what I would want others struggling to know is just, it's don't be ashamed. And I think that's a big reason that people don't seek help is there's so much shame around eating disorders and they're so secretive about it. And, people don't really notice or say anything until it's really at a really bad spot. So just don't be ashamed. People are out there to help you. People care about you. They love you. They're not going to judge you. Your family, your loved ones, they might not get it and they may say some things that bother you or like, what are you thinking? Why would you say that? But, you got to educate them. And it's something that they probably haven't dealt with. So, but let people in, let people know. And if you don't have close family or friends, seek a professional, a
That's right.
therapist. But people do care, and don't be shameful, and don't think you have to have this, certified medical diagnosis eating disorder to seek help. If you feel like something's not right and you're struggling, go seek help. There's no book that says like you have to be at this weight, you have to be this bad, you have to be like, seek people out, and there's hope. Recovery is there for everybody, and
That's right.
everybody can get there, but it's going to be a process. It might be months, it might be years, but you can get there.
Well said. Dr. Carol and Pastor John, I am going to ask you very brief, one moment each. What do you want to end for the audience and for Lauren to know about today's program that is important for them to know?
I think the most important thing is something Lauren already touched on. There's hope.
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren, for your courage to come out and share your experience. For me, I would say create a community where people could be safe to talk. I think the church should do a better job in creating that, where there's no judgment, no shaming. And I think this will go very far in reaching our generation.
I want to wrap it up by thanking you, Lauren. You are a hero. You are incredible and you are wonderful. And you care deeply for people. And your story here today was courageous. And you are strong. And everybody can see that you're strong. And we already know that you've already made it. So I want you to hear that. You have
Thank
already
you.
made it. You know, I'm here for you, just a phone
Mhm.
call away. Actually, just a few miles away from you, I'll meet you. And I want everybody who has been listening to this today to pray for those in your life that you know they're struggling, and to remember that there is hope. Today, this whole program had to do with hope and victory, because we have seen hope come alive and we saw victory at the end for Lauren. The same hope, the same victory that is and continues to be for Lauren is going to be for your loved one. And if there is anything that we can do let us know by prayer. We will pray for people as well. But I would encourage everyone that you seek out help. This is what we want you to know. Seek out help and remember that you can and you will be an overcomer. It may not be easy, one step at a time. So we want to thank everybody for being here today. And I also want to thank our panelists, Dr. Carol and Pastor John. I am so honored that moving forward, we're going to be doing this together because now we see what our program really does. And I want to thank Citro Company for sponsoring Light of the World. And it's funny to talk about skincare and makeup after a conversation like this. But I always take it, and my daughter is here to hear it. It's not about trying to look beautiful. It's really about maintaining, keeping healthy, washing your face, using the right products. Nobody wants to get old, kind of thing. And it doesn't really matter. It's not about that. It's really about keeping your face, your body healthy. And if you're gonna put on makeup, you definitely do not want to put certain makeup because they have been linked to cancer causing. And we know that Citro Company is very cautious and very concerned about this. And not that I'm going to make a blanket statement that there may not be some ingredient in there, but it has been approved by the EU. And the EU is known to eliminate 1,200 plus of ingredients that are cancer causing. That does not happen in other makeups. And I know that it is for us. So it's safe. If you're going to use anything, consider Citro Company. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. Lauren, thank you once again. I so admire your courageous strength. You are a pillar. You are strong. And I know that you are now going to be able to help many people because I believe that God does not bring us to circumstances without using it to give him glory. You have a testimony of his goodness, his compassion, his mercy, his love, and his saving grace. You have that. That is your story. And it's evident by anyone that hears the story that they cannot look at you and see you as anything but strong and courageous who beat an issue in her life that needed to be conquered. So you conquered with God's help. And so thank you for joining us today. Everybody, we will see you next week. Have a beautiful and wonderful weekend. Bye.